Exploration and Healing series. This video is about creating a unified field of healing. And for us, this has become a really key part of our exploration and healing, is how to go about tapping into this unified field. We all know that everything is one, and when it comes to healing, that has some very important significance in terms of how the energies flow and what the vibration is like, and how we actually create change and opening with one another and in alignment and cohesion with our environment and with the world around us. So we're going to talk a little bit about some examples of what happens inside that unified field, and then talk about how to do it, how to begin exploring it, both individually and as a group.
I'll start with a little story that happened in my life about a year ago. My daughter Gracie was 10, and she and her brother and I were traveling on the road, and we ended up in the emergency room because she was in the middle of having a very difficult time with her appendix. And she had her surgery in this foreign land to us, West Texas, in a small hospital, and she had a very difficult time recovering. She had to stay in the hospital a lot longer than we thought she would. This was unusual. She was an incredibly healthy young girl. What I soon realized was that she was having difficulty recovering because she was so permeable to everything around her. Like all of us, she's permeable, but like children. Children are incredibly open and sensitive, and Grace is exponentially open. She has a lot of openness and energetic receptivity, but she doesn't have awareness around. And when this became really clear to me, and I got the biggest teaching probably in my life about a unified field of healing or not healing, was the day after her surgery. She was lifeless. She was very, very unhappy. She was feeling bad physically, but this was much more of an emotional, energetic, spiritual heaviness that she had. And she refused to get up and try to walk like she was supposed to. She refused to eat. She was not my daughter. And for a while, we just gave her space. Her brother and I just gave her space because we thought this was part of her transition. And then gradually throughout the day, she got less and less like herself, until at one point, she looked at me, and it was not Grace looking at me. It was her little face, but it seemed like somebody totally different. And she said, "Mama, I'm done. I'm going to die now." And I was very concerned. Fortunately, I had a guide who was whispering and then screaming in my ear about how to help create a certain feel in Grace's room. And I immediately did that, and Raven helped, and Grace's brother helped, and all of our friends, some of you helped from afar, create a field around her. We had been doing it, but this was much more conscious in this time because I realized something was going on with Grace. And she immediately fell asleep, and she woke up feeling quite a bit better. Later, when she had another wave of pain come in, she said, "Mama, do that thing that you did again with all your friends," which I hadn't told her we were doing, but she knew. So that's one example of a field coming at this little being, and it really helped her. The field that I learned about most, though, was what was going on the floor, the same floor where we were, that we had no idea about. The day after this experience, I was talking to one of Grace's nurses, and she told me this story that the day before, as it turns out exactly at the time when Grace sat up and she said, "Mama, I'm done," the man who was right across the hall from us, who had also had an appendectomy, also had a very infected situation like Grace, but had been recovering for longer. He had become despondent, and he didn't want to stay in the hospital anymore, and the doctors were urging him to stay because he had infected areas in his abdomen. They wanted to stay and make sure that his infection was entirely gone before he left, but he was done. And so he took out his IVs and walked down the hall and left, and his hospital gown. And what I realized was, of course, Grace was in that same energy that this man was in. And later, when I thought about it, I realized that that was the field that was affecting everyone on the floor. And it wasn't that that man wasn't healing. This is my feeling about it. It might have been his personal healing to go home, and who knows what happened. You know, the doctors and nurses trained in Western medicine thought it was really like a suicide to leave. I have no idea. And his healing might have indeed been to die. I have no idea. But what I got from the energy that this woman was sharing with me was that there was all over the floor that day when he was making this decision a degree of agitation and of everyone pronouncing that he had decided to die. That was the field that my little girl was trying to heal in. And as soon as we just took a little bit more responsibility for her field, we could create what we wanted to. This is really incredibly important for all of us because each of us exists in multiple fields all the time. You cannot not exist within a field. And we'll talk a little bit about the science of that in just a minute, but you cannot exist without sharing energy with everything around you. And to some people that's scary. To me it's quite exciting. When we talk about healing in any way, physical healing, emotional healing, mental healing, relationship healing, community healing, to me, the real gift is that we can be conscious of this field and we can use it and we can create it to be what we want it to be. Without knowing anything about the effects, I didn't know what would happen with Grace. I just first of all listened to the ancestors screaming at me and called on people who love Grace. And we really, all we did was shot her all the love that we had for her. Sometimes in some traditions, some older traditions, especially shamanic traditions, there's awareness that we all exist within the same field, of course. There's been awareness always of this. And the way that some of the tools are used is to sort of block out things we don't want in our field. You know, we've done this with all sorts of shamanic tools, which are really helpful. But to me, the energy of that, if I would have just blocked out, oh my gosh, there's agitation around us, then my awareness, my attention would be on the blocking. And the energy that I was holding to block would be pretty much the same agitation that I was trying to block. So what Raven and I work on a lot in our personal lives and together is to not try to block out those things. We have personal situations all the time where we would just like to block out some kind of energy that might be coming at us. And it's very, very difficult to not do that, to say, I don't want that kind of energy. The trick is to get bigger than that, whatever that thing is, that thought of Grace's, that thought that was transferred to her mind from somebody else's mind on the floor, because there really is just one mind. So that thought turned into this energy and this feeling inside of her. We could block that out and say, oh, that's a horrible thought, or we could get bigger, add more love to the situation. Our sweet friend Mary Beth, maybe is watching this, she has a saying that says, just pour a little more love on it, which is exactly what we're trying to do, to consciously play with the reality, and that is, I can't get away from the energy around me. And in fact, I don't want to. I just want to be conscious of my interaction with it. Can I get a little bit bigger and hold more space for healing? Can I, when I can't do that, can I call on people who maybe have a little more juice in the moment to give me more energy for healing? And that's what our focus is of this whole circle, is to create together a unified field of healing so that we can work on our own healing, personal relationships, physical healing, all different kinds of healings, and then together build that into a place where we can offer that healing to all others we come into contact with and all others on the planet.
So in the realm of science and healing, one of the really amazing things that's out there is the Mayo Clinic. I had opportunity to visit there with Amy this last spring, and it's a great example of creating a field of healing, where their whole impetus is to treat the whole patient, not to treat the patients as these objects that need, or these problems that need to be solved, but to really treat them as humans, as a whole being, as they move through their healing process. And so the environment there is one of these things that's totally amazing. It's aesthetically really pleasing. There's amazing art all around. The rooms are laid out in a way that's where things are really quiet and kind of orderly, but not in a rigid way, but in a way where it's clear that everyone knows what's happening and what the next step is. And there's live music on many of the floors all over the place. And one of my experiences of being there was that I would really notice that if somebody started to get agitated, because you're in a hospital situation, you're moving from test to test or doctor to doctor, and as people were moving through that, if they got upset or started to get agitated or didn't know what was going on, someone would appear like that. Even before they could get worked up enough to like go and ask somebody would just show up. It would be in the field itself, and these people have trained themselves to really be in service to the patients, and so they could feel it. There wasn't like there was somebody watching really closely. It's like everybody was in tune enough they could feel it and really move right in to help soothe and support the person and move into whatever the next piece of this was. And one of the things Amy told me about, that I'll let her talk about, but is that this is a team of people working together instead of, these isolated doctors that come in. And what's that like when you're on the inside of it?
It's amazing. So it was really great for me for Raven to come with me, because this is the place I go every year for healing, and this is the place where I had a surgery that saved my life. And I've always had the experience when I leave of feeling sadness, a real energetic falling as I'm leaving town and driving to the airport. And for a while I was a little critical of myself, thinking, are you romanticizing the hospital? What's going on? But then over time I suspected, no, I'm actually moving out of this field. So it was really wonderful to have someone who could see it from the inside. Or from the outside. I've always been very inside this situation. And I've had lots and lots of experience with different kinds of situations too. The field here at the Mayo Clinic was begun at the very inception of the institution. It was begun by a father and his two sons, who are physicians, out in rural Minnesota over a century ago. And from the beginning, this was their only driving force, was to treat the patient as a person, treat the entire patient, and to work together. And I don't know whether, that was fostered by the fact that it was a family that began the situation, but it's nonprofit, so it means there's no outside forces kind of affecting the money situation. There are outside forces giving money, but there's no pharmaceutical issues like we have with other institutions. Every bit of money above and beyond cost goes right back into the institution to education and facilities. And of course, there's lots and lots of money coming from elsewhere, because people have come from throughout the planet to get help at this wonderful place. And I used to wonder about that. Could this happen on a different scale? This is an enormous institution with world-class physicians and lots of resources. Can this happen on a different scale? I definitely think it can, because it's not about that. It didn't start out as a world-class institution. It started out as a father and two sons and some nuns, actually. The feeling of being there is, if I had to put it into a kind of physical situation that we're all aware of, it feels like being wrapped in warmth. Or taking a warm bath, or just, I definitely feel surrounded by something, and not in a cloying way, because I've had definitely situations in hospitals where I feel too attended to in a way that doesn't feel good. It feels like it's more about the person attending to me and what they need to get from this situation. It's more, here there have been thousands and thousands of physicians and nurses and technicians come through this place, all dedicated to the entire person. And in fact, my doctors don't even call themselves my doctors, they're the consultants. So that shows you a very different mindset. And so our trip this spring that I think really inspired Raven, who got to see energetically from the outside, wow, look at what can be created.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did. I mean, it was such an amazing thing to feel it. Like, I've touched on it on an individual level, like in healing sessions, or with small groups of people where we have a shared intent, where we have shared energy, and how that amplifies things. And when that works, the thing is that I really experienced at the Mayo is the alignment piece. It's like when everybody's energy is actually wrapped around the same feeling sense, the same idea, in this case of treating the patient as a whole person as they're moving through their healing process. That has an incredible impact. And so to walk in, like Amy said, to walk into a field of that where thousands of doctors are doing that every day, and nurses and assistants, and they all have the same sense of these are people who are moving through a healing sense, and we want to support them as deeply as possible on all levels of their being. And it's like, it's wow. It was really a wow in terms of the feeling of it. And then when we did our retreat this last spring, through Amy's guidance and through the work that we were all doing together, we did the same thing. We started to really create this sense through visualizations and meditation and energy work on a personal level, on a community level, and then on connection with the land and connection with the broader world, to start to feel that real sense of resonance, of vibration, of joining together to allow that healing to happen in that field. And feeling the ripples of that healing going out as we were doing it. And so that is one of the things that really inspired us to start these talks with you and to begin this process of coming together again on a consistent basis to do these things. So the question is, how do we do it? How do we bring all of these ideas and thoughts back into a place where we're actually taking action? And so it's about, I think, just about really being creative and not thinking that it has to look a particular way as we're moving through these things. It can be as simple as being on a bus. You're on a bus on your commute to work, and you really just drop into a space of deepening your own sense of connection to the moment, to dropping into your senses, to feeling your own energy, to feeling your own center, coming grounded, and then allowing that feeling sense to ripple out into the environment you're at, and to notice the impact that has and how it changes your relationship to what's happening, and how it changes the relationship out here to itself. So it can be that simple as to find a creative way to do some practice, some dropping in a public place, and it can be, you can take it into your work environment. Right now I'm working to create a drop-in center for homeless youth, and I've spent a lot of time brainstorming with Amy, like exactly how can I do that? How can I bring this sense into the building, into the physical area itself, into the feeling of what would be the most beneficial feeling for these people to help them move to their next step in life. And one of the things that we really came up with is that I want it to feel like a home, rather than an institutional place where they're dropping in and being processed through and getting, casework, so where they take their step-to-step thing. But that stuff has to happen, but that can happen in a place that, is full of fluorescent lights and old broken down furniture and, unpainted walls, or it can happen in a place that's full of sofas and is freshly painted and has nice lighting. And there's a sense of warmth to the place, or there's a sense of sterility, and what is it I want to create in that, so you can take it into a work environment in that way. And the other way to really make these pieces real is to create a physical expression of it in your world. And so we're going to invite you, between when you see this video and our conference call, to create an altar to a unified field of healing. So to really collect objects and to set up a physical space for yourself that really reflects your sense of healing and how that might ripple out into the world around you through objects, through pictures, through really dropping into what's that feeling for you of healing, and how could that be expressed in the world, and what can you represent on your altar as that expression as you move into this next week, and as we move closer to actually creating a circle of healers that we want to join together with.
And we would invite you to start playing with that altar, and then maybe leave some space, because as we come together in a circle, it could be that your ideas of healing greatly expand, and you'll want to add to that. And over time, we're hoping to take pictures of our altars, and I'll share them somehow on the website or Facebook.
Absolutely.
We'll figure it out. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find a way to show those. We'll make an altar of altars.
Yes.
I love it. The other thing we want to invite you to do this week is to carry an object with you, to pick something that represents healing for you, and to carry that around on your person as you move through the week, and to make sure and bring that when you come to the conference call we're going to do, or when you listen to the conference call you're going to do if you can't catch it live, so that we can begin to imbue, when we feel these things, when we start dropping in through our practice and with our connection with one another, to feel this unified field of healing, that we find some way of anchoring that in a real physical way, so that we can bring it with us as we move through our lives. So having an object with you that will pick up that vibration and help you to anchor it and bring it back, on a regular basis, is something that is really a really important tool that we're going to invite you to work with. So finding an object, stone, a crystal, a feather, anything that's important, that feels like it could hold a vibration for you of healing, carry it around with you and bring it to the call when we do it. And also, when you go to do the call, is to bring a candle, because we're gonna jump right in and start doing some of this healing work right off the bat on the call that we're gonna on our next conference call, and see if we can start to really tap into this field together in a deeper way, in a practical, visceral way, as we're moving forward.
We end with a short visualization, and this is just kind of opening a doorway for your exploration in the next week and in the next months. We want to, like Raven said, practice and use unified fields of healing in all aspects of our life. So Raven has the example of consciously using it in his work right now, and each of us has different areas of our life that we could do that in. Where I'm really working diligently is to create a unified field of healing around myself, to help me heal a relationship that's been very, very difficult for about a year now, and I'm not in contact with this person, so I can't heal actually with this person. But what I've discovered is that by asking others to help me create a unified field around the situation, things are shifting. So I wanted to say that because sometimes it's easy to think, well, I don't have a big, I'm not creating a center like Raven, and I don't have, Amy's heart condition, and what am I healing? All the time there's something being healed within us. And our joy in life is to say, wow, how can I consciously do that? So right now I'm going to lead you in just a little visualization to figure out what's most right for you in your personal life. How do you want to share and create the unified field of healing? Just one little area. So let's just do a little bit of visualization to get information on that. Okay. So closing our eyes and breathing way down into low belly. Feeling the weight of your physical form resting into whatever you're sitting on. Good, and pulling that breath and your awareness up into the center of your head, into your third eye. Just imagining that you can open a little window or a door. And through this window or door, ask to be shown, or ask to remember, ask to realize, what is one place where you're working on healing in your own personal life or helping someone else to heal? Just one situation. And whenever anything comes up, it might surprise you. That's okay. Go with it. You don't need to have answers. Once you have this situation, I want you to expand your awareness. Focus for a moment on the crown of your head. Direct some energy there, some attention. And allow just a little bit more light to come into the crown of your head. And open to being shown, or open to determining, or open to finding out ways you can consciously create a unified field of healing for this particular situation. You might be shown steps, or maybe there's just words or feelings. It doesn't matter. Just open. How can I create a unified field of healing for this situation? I'm going to ask you to stay in this place of opening and receptivity as long as you like, and revisit it throughout the week, throughout the months, as Raven leads us in a little blessing.
As we open, may all beings open with us. As we heal, may all beings feel that healing sense within themselves. And may they pick it up and also ripple it out, so that it moves across all places and times. May all of our work be for the highest vibration, for the biggest